Welcome to the LabCast with Atlas and Rolly. We're going to be posting this once every 2 weeks, and the main topics we're going to be covering are all things eSports, but also talking about personal life and how they play effect in this, and then we're going to go on and ramble about everything that's going on in the scene, such like that. If you want to see anything specific, comment down below. We're going to read the comments, and we're going to go into that in the next podcast. But starting off, Taz, what do you think is the biggest thing people need to know when they get into competitive esports?
For me, I think the biggest thing that people really need to know about getting into esports is the sacrifices that you have to make. Just whether time, money, there's a lot of sacrifices and different things you put into it that I don't think people fully realize because they think, oh, it's just a video game. But this is just like actual sports as well. So I don't know, you'd go to practice and you'd miss out, or you go to a game and miss out on going to a party or going out on the boat with your boys or whatever you're doing. It's the same thing with esports. You have to put in that time, and if anything with esports, I feel it's more competitive than people take it because it's so easily accessible for, anybody to do. Yeah. Anybody who has a PlayStation and Call of Duty can become a professional Call of Duty player.
Yeah.
Whereas anybody, with the amount of time and effort, whereas there's people limited in what they can do with physical sports, lacrosse, football, whatever. Not everybody can do those things. It's not a bad thing. It's just, they can't.
And like you said, there's a certain level of commitment that comes into this thing. And when you start off in esports, you don't always have to be fully dedicated, want to go pro. You can want to compete just to compete. A lot of people don't have, or say they have aspirations to go pro, but realize they're not going to put in the 8-hour days, the 10-hour days that a lot of these players are putting in, and they might not be able to put in as much time and energy, and that's okay. You can compete in esports, League of Legends, CSGO, Valorant, Call of Duty, all these games without dedicating your livelihood to it. But also, if you do want to go pro, as Taz was saying, you really got to be able to dedicate so much time and put in so much commitment to achieve what you want to do.
Right. I mean, if you want to go pro, you're going to have late nights and you're going to be tired, at school or your job or whatever you're going to do. I can't tell you how many times where me and you stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning and then I had to wake up at 6, and go to school, and then we'd get back home from school and we'd do the same thing over and over again. So you definitely put in a lot of time and effort into these things. And the other thing I think you need to know is when it's time to cut ties with a person, a player, whether they're your best friend in the world or whether you met them on Twitter a week ago, because you have to make sure that you're getting the practice you need and you're getting and playing with the level you need. And whether that's too high, then that might not be the best all the time, or if it's too low, that's really not the best because you're learning bad habits playing against worse players and you're not, getting the practice you need, the reps in with better people than you, because that's how you get better, is playing with better.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the thing is when you're playing with your friends, and also that's a good startup method. So if you want to start competing, a lot of people get in because their friends start competing, and that's fine. You can get your friends into esports, teach them what you know, but at a certain point, if you get to a certain level where maybe you're just too good to be competing, or look, I have a chance to do this at a higher level, sometimes you got to realize, look, your friend will understand if he's a true friend, and that's completely understandable.
For example, to piggyback off that, me and you're the whole reason I started competing, in Call of Duty, and back in IWs when I started at the very end of BO4, right before, IW came out. I was, obviously not the best. This is the first time I ever competed, and you, took the time and sat down with me to do it. But I think what made the difference, why we still play together today competitively sometimes every now and then, is the amount of time, effort, and energy I put in, and I think you noticed that. And yes, I may not have been as good as you at the start. I wasn't even as good as you at the end of IW, just because you had so much more time and experience on the game than me, or in Call of Duties than me. But I think, honestly, that the effort, you can tell when someone really is trying to be the best, whereas some of our teammates wouldn't be on as long as me and you were. And at that point, I surpassed them in my level. So I think that that's one big thing, too, is we have a player, Doug Cisco. He is one of the most talented people in the world, but I think in IW and World War II, he just didn't care for the game that much, wasn't dedicated as much, and I really put in the time and effort in those 2 games, and that's what made me better. Now, you look at a game like this where I've been gone the last 6 months and I haven't been able to put in the time and effort. He has surpassed me, way better. And I think that enjoying the game you're playing also is a big key to it, because if you don't enjoy what you're doing every single day, you're not going to, you may be there for the hours, but you don't really care, so you're not going to put in the extra whatever. You're not going to put in 110% of yourself. You may, just run through the scrims and do the reps you need to do and play GBs, and you might perform okay, but you're not putting in 110% of yourself. So I think that has something to do with how good you can become at a game.
Yeah, and also I feel like we glanced over a lot of things to start off, like in esports, and how to really build a team from scratch. And even if you are good enough to compete, or maybe you're not that good right now, there's so many ways to get in. Never feel uncomfortable to reach out to someone on Twitter. That's the thing. Like if you're playing competitive Call of Duty, a lot of kids have the biggest egos, and if you don't have an at that they recognize, they won't play with you, and that's completely unacceptable. Because if you see in any other game like Valorant, CS:GO, and all that, yes, they might ask you ranks, but it's because, look, these guys have never played with you, and they're trying to find who's the best talent I can play with, because they're trying to be successful just as much as you are. So what makes you stand out? And that's what you got to think about yourself.
And to me, I get it, they don't want to waste their time playing with someone who's, obviously way worse than them, so they may want to recognize a name or something that they've seen in the past or somebody's told them about, But I do think that's pretty childish out of the Call of Duty community, just basing solely if you're going to try somebody out based off their ad or not. I don't feel like the amount of followers you have has anything to do with how good you are in Call of Duty. It should be based off rank. And I think another part about that is it's kind of bad, because Call of Duty hasn't always, not every game has the same ranking system, and it hasn't always been good, and ranked play is garbage in most games, So it's hard for somebody to get a good base off how good you are unless they actually play with you. So I think that's the reason why people get egoed so many times, just for their Twitter followers, because there's no other base that an amateur team or an amateur player has other than their Twitter.
Yeah.
And posting clips, maybe your YouTube, whatever, that would be the closest thing. But it's not like CS:GO where you can tell them, oh, I'm MGE, and they're like, oh shit, so he's all right. But Call of Duty just doesn't have that rank system, so I feel like that's hard for people to judge how good you are.
There's a level in competitive Call of Duty, at least, where if you play game battles and stuff, people ask you what's your earnings. And the main problem with this for Call of Duty scene is the Call of Duty scenes have to do with what internet you're playing on. Yes, it comes down to skill, but the thing is, a lot of people can recognize, look, you can be an online warrior, you can be all this. The thing is, if you want to play online leagues competitively in Call of Duty, you can pick up these guys with 1,000 by 1,000 Google Fiber Wi-Fi, because yes, they'll be able to compete. The thing is, checking out GB records don't always matter, because you're playing on dedicated servers that are not cared for by the company that's putting them out there. So a lot of times, looking at records, looking at names, it's very hard to find a good understanding without just playing with them. That's I think the main thing people should take out of this. If you're looking for players, if you need a team or whatever, I think you should always give a team player a shot. Look at his film. Look at what he's posted. A lot of Call of Duty players, I know other games like CS:GO also post a lot of clips. Look at his clips. See what he's doing. Don't judge him by the name. Don't judge him by all this. Really go into it. Maybe even give him a shot if you think the clips can compete, or if you think he's shooting straight. I mean, you could teach the fundamentals. Like David said, he had no competitive skill beforehand, and then I picked him up. We practiced. We played literally every day till 2 a.m., and we grinded, and we got him to a place where we could compete at a LAN event. And that's something I feel like people shouldn't take away. Hard work can beat skill at any time. So,
also, when you just mentioned something about the LAN experience, at least in the Call of Duty community, that's what I'm most familiar with, is a big thing. Because you have a lot of people that, yes, are very good, talented players, but it's a whole different atmosphere when you're at a LAN. And for example, when we went to the LAN in IW, I was pretty good online, and then I went to the LAN and didn't do the best. And that was a big learning point for me because it was like just such a different atmosphere. I'm not in my room anymore, I'm out somewhere where there's, people sitting across from me and people sitting next to me. So I will say if you do plan on going to a LAN and you have an esports center near you or something like that, I would go to that esports center and try to practice with your team there if they're close, or even just you by yourself, because playing in an atmosphere that you're not used to is going to transfer over to the LAN, because obviously you're not going to be used to the LAN atmosphere, just sitting in your room every day for 10 hours a day. So I do think that you need to change as many things as you can so when you go to the LANs that you're ready for anything, because you're used to playing in 10 different areas, and so now what's this? This is just number 11. So if you just get comfortable doing, something the same thing every day, and then all of a sudden it changes up, you're gonna be shaky. So I would make sure I would try to keep the same routine as far as what you're, putting into your body, whether that's you drink energy drinks or not, or you drink G Fuel or not, because that can also have a pretty big effect.
Definitely don't overdo Adderall, G Fuel, anything.
Adderall, period.
Yeah, but if you're gonna take some enhancement to allow yourself to be more cracked, maybe you're really nervous, don't do something you haven't practiced with beforehand. If you take 3 energy drinks before your first match at a LAN, I promise you will underperform. You will not do as well. Just make it act like it's a normal day at home. Chill, relax, tell your teammates, look, we've been here before, we played this team before, we played against this talent before. Don't be nervous, we're going to play fine.
Right, and you want to get kind of set into a way as far as what you're putting into your body and how you're playing. But like I was saying earlier, you want to try to switch up where you play and the atmosphere you play in as much as possible, because like I said, that will transfer over, when you're at the LAN, because you're not comfortable playing in different areas or on a different seat than you're used to, and you're used to seeing the monitor at this height and all these type of things. Yes, your controller is going to be the same, but it's a whole lot different when you're sitting in a shorter chair, the monitor's way higher, or whatever the case may be. That does affect your play dramatically, at least I feel from my experience. Whenever I would go to your house and I bring my PlayStation and stuff, I would notice it would take me like a couple games to get used to the new setup I'm in.
Yeah.
And at a LAN, you don't really have that time.
Yeah, I think next podcast we should definitely go into more like all about LAN details, because we have experience in LANs. I've been to 2, he's been to 1 ourselves. It's not what you think it is, and I think that should be a good topic, because people don't really understand the format and the structure that comes into this. When you're there, it's completely different than what you see online. It's completely different what you see in CDL and CWL and all of these leagues, even the LCS and LEC, all these League of Legends leagues. They're completely different. When you go experience it yourself, it's nothing like what you imagine.
Right. So my question for you is like, how do you talk to a teammate that is underperforming consistently than how he used to play?
Yeah.
And you feel like maybe it's just an attitude problem. Like, what do you say to that person? Because I notice a lot of people, everything will be good, and then just one day they have a bad day, and then that just transfers on, into the next. And they may be a good dude, a good player, and so you don't want to get rid of them necessarily, like, immediately. So, like, how do you go about that?
Yeah. The thing is, you really have to know your teammates. You really want to grow to be fond of your teammates, because you're going to be spending every day with these guys. And at the end of the day, you're going to have your own decisions to make on what do you think is the best opportunity. But for these specific occasions where this guy has talent, you want to play with him, look, and his attitude's starting to slip, or maybe he's underperforming, all you got to do is, like, if he's mature enough, you got to be honest with him. Of course, don't be rude to him. Don't destroy his play. Don't bring up KDA. None of this stuff matters at the end of the day. This is your teammate. What you want to do is give him constructive criticism, but be real with him. If this guy really wants as much as you do, I mean, me and David might have different views on what to tell him. I just believe you should be honest with your teammates. Tell them, pick your head up. You can't be complaining right now. Like, this match means something to me. I know it means something to you. The last couple of days you've been underperforming. I could tell it's because you're in your own head. Look, you're good. Believe in yourself, because I believe in you. That's the kind of stuff I tell my teammates.
And for me, it's kind of almost like, if you're going to be teammates with somebody and you're spending that amount of time with someone, yeah, you may not be right next to them, but you're talking to them for at least 8 hours,
Yeah.
However long your practice is how long you're talking to them and on the mic with them. So maybe I don't know. My personal view is maybe sometimes just sit down and like talk to them.
Yeah.
And don't make it about gaming.
Yeah.
Because the better friends you are out of game, the better you'll play together.
Oh, 100%.
You're just more comfortable you feel with that person, more relaxed you feel with that person. You don't feel tensed up and like you have to do this to stay on this team. If you are comfortable with your roster, with your friends, whatever, then just be friends with them sometimes. Don't always bring up gaming, group chat, Snapchat. Do something outside of gaming because that'll eventually carry over into gaming.
Like you said, like a lot of the bigger organizations. So team houses can sometimes be toxic and not a great atmosphere. But if you look at Fnatic and some of these other high-level organizations, their main priority, like you see them posting videos of their League of Legends team going out and playing soccer together and doing all these activities. And it's not just for content. It's for team building. Like if you ask any person that's a psychology expert or any of this stuff, they understand, look, you have to be comfortable with these people to make snap decisions with them on the fly. Because when you're in these high pressure moments, your nerves are high, your heart's racing, your decision making is unclear. You need to have that comfortability with your teammates to be like, look, we got this. And you need to be able to rely on him as they rely on you.
I don't know. And also, I feel like there's a lot of teams out there that attempt to do that, but don't really care whether you don't really like one person on your team or whatever. You don't get along with him the best. That's cool. You're not going to get along with everybody, and everybody should understand that. But it's like you not getting along with that person and you being stuck in your ways of doing something different is, at the end of the day, not only messing things up for you, but it's messing things up for the whole team. If you're not, you don't have to be best friends with everybody on your team, but you have to get along, because if you have a dislike for somebody or a need to say something and you're too afraid to say it and get it off your chest, or you just don't want to say it because it's going to start problems, well, that's a problem in itself. So you trying to prevent starting problems is causing a bigger problem, because eventually one day you're going to get mad, something's going to happen, and you're just going to let all of it out at the same time, and then it's just going to turn, that will literally destroy a team right there. I've seen it many a times with many amateur rosters.
Yeah.
Somebody holds something in that they want to say, and they finally eventually get mad after they should win a map against a bad team or whatever, and they end up losing it, and then it all comes out, and that whole team is now destroyed off of something that could have been said earlier. You could have said, stop doing that shit, stop saying that, whatever, and you didn't, and that's why. So sometimes people don't know, like, one of Brandon's thing is he hates when people burp. And I used to not care at all.
Yeah.
But since I've, played with him so long, I've now developed, I hate when people burp too. It like really gets under my skin. And that may not seem like a big problem, but when somebody's already mad about something else, and then if I were to just be an asshole and I know he's mad and I burp on purpose, that's enough to like set somebody off and ruin a whole night's of practice just because he didn't want to say anything about it in the first place. So you do have to be straight up and be honest with people, even when you don't want to.
Yeah, and like you said, like even if that personal example may never relate to anyone in here, like those little things and being able to like accommodate towards your teammates in some way. He clearly, we have respect for each other. We played with each other for a while, and we're very close because of gaming. That's how we grew our friendship. Like gaming can like grow friendships, and it is a great place to make friends. But also, as he was saying, on these little things, like even if it's so small, like just doing it and being very respectful towards your teammates. Because listen, if you're a team hopper, if you're all this, maybe one day you'll get lucky and get on a good team. But the thing is, if you work hard and you stick with one team, you have way higher chance of success. Maybe you lose against bad teams. Maybe you make mistakes. But if everyone's willing to work, that team has a higher chance of winning than whatever team you're going to go flip to. Because I promise you, yes, be a good talent scout, but you also have to be a good human scout at the same time.
Yeah. It can be difficult at sometimes, especially when every single day you want to be the best.
Yeah.
You want to, I don't know, I've always had a friendly competition with everybody on my team. If I'm not performing the best on my team, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and yeah, sometimes that's hard for certain roles you play. For example, OBJ or anchor or whatever.
Support.
Those,
Like in other games.
yeah, in League of Legends support, whatever. Those roles you're not gonna get the highest KDA. You're not gonna, but you do certain things that if you didn't do, your team loses that game. If you don't get 3 minutes in hill, whatever, 2.5 minutes in hill, or if you don't help kill that ADC one time as a support, set your ADC up for something, or you're a jungler and you don't, get the right buff or whatever. You don't let your mid take the blue buff.
100%.
That can ruin your entire game, and that's stuff that's not reflected on the scoreboard at the end of the game.
If you drop your egos, everyone will be much better. I promise you. Sorry to cut you off, but like what you're saying is so accurate. If everyone on their team's okay, not playing KDA, not playing egos, and after the game we get a win, it's not, dang, I'm so good. It's, dang, we're so good, and everyone starts noticing, like, even like the guy on the bottom of the leaderboard. Even if you lose a game, it's not always the bottom of the leaderboard's fault. It's not always that. There's always micro mistakes that can always tumble into many more things.
Right, and I feel like when you lose, when you lose a game, to me, from what I've seen in my experience, this isn't always true, but most of the time, every single person on your team made a mistake at some point, whether it's 1 or 20.
Yeah.
Everybody made a mistake, so if you're going to blame the guy on the bottom or whatever for not getting enough kills or whatever, yeah, that's true. You should have got more kills. You fucked up. But I guarantee you the person on the top with the most kills messed up somewhere too.
Here.
He did not have a perfect game.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to egoing.
Yeah, go back into it.
Because I feel like a lot of people ego, like even top pros ego each other.
Yeah, just
for like
respect and
right, and the following you have, or how you've been in past games, or whatever the case may be. Like Call of Duty's such a special game because it changes. Like it changes every single year. So, like Censor Martin, he may have not been good in the past games, but if he really put in the time and effort, like he always says he is, then I think even giving him a shot or whatever, running scrims with him, would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my view on
it. And jumping into Censor Martin even deeper, for those of you that don't know who he is, maybe you don't play competitive esports, maybe you don't watch it, that's okay. I mean, this is a competitive player that has won championships in the past and has been seen as the worst on most of his rosters due to his KDA, plays very team-oriented. He sacrifices many things. And yes, he may not be as talented as most of the players in the pro scene. He's very dedicated, but he's also very hated by the community. I have a tweet up here right now. So, Censor Martin, for those of you that don't know, our bad. That's a production mistake by me. Our camera ended up dying, so we're just going to go back over what we were talking about. We were just talking about Censor Martin.
Right, we were finishing up talking about Doug, and then kind of talking about ourselves a little bit, but...
Yeah, so let's just hop straight back into what I was going to read, what I did read, but the camera was dead and I kept going. So this is basically a repeat. We already went over it. So Censor Martin, he's a professional Call of Duty player, and he's just had a bad view on him. Everyone has bad views on him, but he works his butt off 12 hours a day grinding and tries to get on a competitive COD team. He recently played on an amateur team, and he got dropped after the first event. And people are bashing him and all of this stuff. And he wrote back to a comment on Twitter. He said, "I played horrible in our elimination game. I don't fault anyone except for myself. With that said, my year is going to end on my year isn't going to end on that note. Back to the grind." So basically, we think everyone should have the mindset he has, no matter what skill you are. This man's so dedicated. And yes, he probably got picked up to his professional organization to be a sub solely based off followers, and he should probably know that. But, I mean, other than that, he works his butt off and he's trying to be pro.
And I feel like whether you're at the top or at the bottom in esports, you're just starting out or, you're a pro, that dedication and mindset has to be there 24/7, because if it's not, then there's somebody else that has that dedication and mindset, and they're going to surpass you. Eventually, talent will only get you so far, and the hard work that you put in will only get you so far. So, to me, it's just like everybody should have that mindset, I feel like, because if you don't, then somebody else is getting better than you.
And also, I mean, if this could be taken in a different way, if you view Censor as not a great player, which a lot of Call of Duty players actually don't think he's good, and that's fine, but this should make you think, wow, I should try to get into content. I should try to brand myself because this player is able to do so much. He's able to get picked up by a pro team. If you could see a cat right now, yeah, he's just moving around. I don't know if you can, but either way, yeah. But it's his cat. Yeah, there you go. You can sit in the podcast if you want. But this should make you think, wow, I should really start streaming. I should start making YouTube content. I should brand myself in any way I think I can. Because if you want to do this and maybe you're not the best, and if you don't think Censor's the best, look what he's doing. He was able to get picked up on salary to a professional team, and it's just probably based off his followers and what he brings to an organization, which is good. A lot of players can't see the same.
Right, and a lot of the top players don't have a following
At all.
He does. You haven't uploaded on their YouTube in a long time or whatever. They don't really get that many interactions on their tweets or whatever. I think what Censor's doing is good for esports as a whole because it's bringing in people that normally wouldn't watch. And I think that's even better for the CDL because it's their first year.
Yeah.
So people that normally wouldn't watch Call of Duty are now watching CDL, and that's bringing in more viewers to Call of Duty, which is better for the Call of Duty scene in general. But I will say it's a hard lifestyle that he's trying to live, doing content and, competing.
It's
because there's just not enough time in a day. A human can't do that. With the time it takes to play at the pro level, and then also the time it takes to create content, editing videos, setting up videos, getting props, whatever it is, whatever you're doing. Yes, your content can be sometimes you streaming, but most of Doug's content is not only, him streaming and stuff like that. Most of his content is because people care about what he's doing in his real life, whether that's going to the gym, his fitness, area or aspect, or any other thing that he's doing. So I think that's kind of hard for him to juggle, which is if you're thinking about doing content and you compete, or you're doing content right now and are thinking about competing, you kind of, if you want to be big in one of them, you have to kind of pick one and go. Because I can promise you Doug's viewership and stuff is, not as high as it should be because he's not producing the same content or same level of content that he's been able to do just because he hasn't, had the time.
Yeah. I mean, 100% agree with you. And now we're going to go more into us and our backstory. And we hope we're still tuning in to all of you. We really appreciate you. But Dave's been gone for the last 6 months, and it's been really different for all of us. So we're just going to cover straight into it. We've teamed for the last couple of years, and now that he's been gone, I've had to look a different route. And there's a reason he's been gone, and he's going to explain more into that so you get a better story about us.
So if you follow us on Twitter, a while ago we made a tweet, posted that I graduated from Marine Corps boot camp, and that was definitely probably one of the hardest things I've had to do up until this point in my life. A lot of things you can't really prepare for. Yes, I was prepared physically pretty well. Like I could do all the requirements and above the requirements on everything, but I wasn't prepared for the 24/7 mentality of just being there and never, not being able to come home and play video games, not being able to hang out with my friends or do whatever on the weekend, which ties back into the sacrifice whole thing. But, one thing I did learn a lot about while I was there was leadership, and I think that needs to become more of a thing in the COD community is leadership, because too many people I see are put in leadership positions, team captain, whatever, and they don't know how to lead. Yeah. So if you guys could get anything from this podcast, what I want you to do is find one of the best leaders in your life and talk to them and just learn, take a couple notes from them and learn how to become a better leader. So if you ever get put in that position, or if you already are in that position, you learn how to become a better leader. Also, if you don't have anybody to talk to, maybe get a book or something like that. Chances are you have internet access if you're watching this video, so look something up, Make yourself better. It's because it's not only going to better you as a person, it's going to better your team. And at the end of the day, if you're in a leadership position, all you should be caring about is how your team's performing, not necessarily how you are performing.
I think for leadership, you need to really understand personal relationships and how to really get to know. You need to understand your players and what gets them passionate, what brings them down, what's their main drive, and you need to really focus in on that because when you're playing with these guys every day, you want to get the best of your players, but you also need to understand they are humans. So they're going to have bad days. They're going to struggle. They're going to have outside problems that come into the game. And yes, they might try to leave it outside, but it's not always that easy. You need to understand how to pick them up and how to put them, like, if they get too big of an ego, you need to be able to, hey, look, you need to have the responsibility to tell them, you got to calm down. Like, yes, you're great, and you got to believe in them and put reassurance in them and make them feel important. But at the same time, you need to make sure you're on the same plan. And the same plan to get everyone great.
Right. And I think that's kind of going to do it. But I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in and watching the podcast. We appreciate it. Like he said in the beginning, we're going to be trying to do this every 2 weeks. Also, if you have anything specific you want us to talk about or any questions you want answered, anything about us, anything about esports in general, make sure you leave a comment. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with as many people as possible so we can get this thing going. Thanks.
Peace.